Hi, Eric Gibaud, ericgibaud.com, and today I'm going to give you 7 tips on how to better the sharpness of your pictures with the gear you already have and without spending more money. Let's start. I remind that Cartier-Bresson said that sharpness was a concept of bourgeois, I mean people with money, and that it was not really necessary. And it's true that in many situations, I think composition, framing, lighting, many things, the theme of the picture is more important than sharpness. But I understand that in some situations we do want more sharpness, like macro photography, sometimes on landscape or whatever reason. So I'm going to give you some advice that regardless of the gear you already have, with that gear you can better the sharpness of your picture. The first thing that many people do is they want to have really shallow depth of field and they want to have maximum sharpness at the same time. And this is simply not possible. Obviously, if you take your lens, if you compare to other lenses, there will be some other lenses that are sharper and other that are less sharp. But we're going to check with the gear you already have. So we're going to look at the relative sharpness of your lens. So no lens has maximum sharpness at maximum aperture. It's impossible. Physically, it doesn't work this way. So let's say you have a 50mm 1.4, and normally you have to count about 2 stops to get better sharpness. Not maximum, but better sharpness. So 1.4, f2, 2.8, 2 stops, better sharpness. But most lenses that have maximum sharpness around 5.6, f8, f11, very often around f8. If you go over f11, you get distraction and then you get strange things and you lose sharpness. So if you're not sure what's the best sharpness on your lens, normally you do not go wrong around f8. Advice number 2, maintain enough speed. Very often people make a big confusion. They think the lens is not sharp, and it's not actually a problem of lens. It's actually a problem of movement. They actually move while making the picture. So as they move, if the speed is not enough, is not high enough, then there will be a slight movement that looks like a lack of sharpness, but actually it's a slight blurred. So it's important that the speed you select to make the picture is high enough to maintain your movement from affecting the result. There's a rule of thumb that says that you should not shoot at a lower speed than the focal length. For example, 50mm, minimum speed is 1/50th of a second. 200mm, minimum speed 200th of a second. But it's true that now you have a stabilizer on the cameras. Not every camera, but many cameras have stabilizer, so that does help a lot. And take into account that when I speak about 50mm 1/50th of a second, I speak about a full frame camera. If you're on APS-C, 50mm, if it's a Nikon APS-C, will be 1/75th of a second. If it's Canon, 1/80th of a second. If it's Micro Four Thirds, 1/100th of a second. Okay, so it's important that you take this into account. And you must know your gear. If you have like my Olympus stabilization, I can really drop speed a lot. But although when it's not necessary, maintain high speed as much as you can. Drop speed only when necessary, so you will avoid any risk. So maintain the minimum speed to make sure the slightest movement is not shown on the picture. Point number 3, don't push your ISO. When you push ISO, what happens is that your camera, even RAW files, many brands make you think when you work in RAW they don't do anything to the picture, and that's not true. They normally get smoother, get rid of the noise, get it a bit smoother, and when they do that, you lose detail. If you lose detail, you lose sharpness. So when you need maximum sharpness, you should not put your ISO up. Keep it down to the minimum your camera lets you do. I don't speak about the false one that you can do. You can actually push down a bit the ISO. I mean the minimum base. If your minimum is 200 ISO, well, work on that. If it's 100 ISO, work on that. But if you push your ISO up, you will lose sharpness always. Point number 4, advice number 4, have enough light. A lit pixel is a sharp pixel, many people say. Right now I've got 2 lights towards me, and you see probably my beard looks quite sharp, but if it was not with this light, then it would not look like this. Why? Because when you get light in there, you get contrast, and the contrast that makes things sharper. When you look at macro photography, they normally put lighting, so insect or whatever they're making a picture of looks sharper. So it's very important to put light in there. Actually, when you better the sharpening of your picture in Photoshop, Photoshop is doing micro contrast, putting up the contrast. Why? Because that looks sharper. And this is the problem. Many people, they don't like the scene, they don't like the product. When they make product photography, it doesn't look sharp. But if they put one light on there, it would be more contrasty and it would look sharper. So when you can, put some flash or some LED light or whatever and get this properly lit. And if it's properly lit, it looks sharper always. Point number 5. Many people, they simply don't know how to hold their camera. I see many people, they use the camera like this, and when they touch the trigger here, it actually does like this. First, this hand is not here, is underneath. This will hold, will carry the camera and bear the weight of the camera. This hand is not made to hold the camera, it's made to trigger, okay? So first you put your camera in your hand. Second, you put your elbow against your belly, okay? And then you inspire, expire a bit and lock your breathing, you must lock, not breathe anymore. And then you really caress the trigger here. And off press and it goes. Never hammer it. If you hammer like this, your camera does that. So even slightly, I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating, but you will see on the picture a loss of sharpness just because you're hammering the camera. So it's very important that you really smooth, okay? Many people say, yeah, but you don't actually need that if you go with a high speed enough. Yeah, it's true. If you go like 1,000th of a second, normally it's not a problem. But if you don't always do that, the day you need to do it, you're not used to do it. So it means that day you won't lock your breath, you will not hold the camera properly, all this. It will go all wrong. So you must always practice this way. Sometimes, even if you're in a hurry, it takes half a second to and then you lock your breathing. So always try to do that and hold the camera properly always, and put it against your belly, your elbow like this. Always lock. This is really important. Point number 6. Sometimes, even if you know how to hold your camera and you lock your breathing, all this, it's just not enough. Why? Because you need to drop speed and it's not possible. So you need to put your camera on something. So you can use a tripod, and you can, if you don't have money for a tripod, you can put it on a wall, on something, and place it somewhere. If a tripod is not practical for you because you do sport photography or nature photography, wildlife, all this, is not really handy to have a tripod with you, you can use a monopod. So at least you have just one leg, but at least you have one of the axes that is controlled. Vertically it won't move. You will have the pendular one and this one, but at least you have one direction that is controlled, okay? So it's important, use a tripod or monopod, and if you don't have that, if you're doing product photography, you can use a bag of rice and put the camera on the bag, so or beans, yeah, so it won't move much. Once it's placed, it's like this. But once you've put your camera on your whether it's a tripod, monopod, or whatever, it's important. Monopod, you don't have any option, but tripod and a bag or wall or table, whatever, you must not touch the camera anymore. It's important that you touch the camera to trigger, but then it may move. So you must use remote trigger system, whether it's a cable or Wi-Fi, or use a smartphone to trigger it, Or if you don't have this, you can actually use the timer, put it on 10 seconds, so you press the trigger and then the camera will start fire after 10 seconds. So it gives time to stabilize anything, doesn't move. So maybe you say 10 seconds is a lot because I've got some people moving, I want to make picture of them. But if you have people moving, then you are not on a low speed. So if you're not on a slow speed, yeah, there's no problem with you don't need the tripod then. So yes, in the situation you do need to drop speed, and holding it is not enough. You use a tripod and don't touch the camera. And then even, that's the last point, the point 7, even if you've put the tripod or whatever you're using, or on the tabletop, or doesn't matter, even if you don't touch the camera, there is internal vibration. And it means the mirror is going to move, the shutter is going to move, and it's going to vibrate. So if you're using a reflex camera, check your manual. It's important you lift the mirror up, so it doesn't there is no vibration. So on many cameras you just go on live view and then do it this way, and so in this case the mirror is not vibrating anymore, so it's not going to affect the picture, especially in low speed. Okay. And if you're using a mirrorless, there is a mechanical shutter and electronic shutter. Well, the one that doesn't vibrate is the electronic shutter, so if you have to avoid all vibration, then you should use the electronic shutter and have no vibration at all. Well, I hope these 7 tips have helped you to better your sharpness, and with the gear you already have, without spending more money. Well, maybe buy a tripod, I'm not sure, but basically with what you have you can do it. If you think it may interest other people, please share it on social networks. If you have not done yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a small button down here and also a small bell. If you click on the bell, you get notified when I upload a new video. My website, ericgibaud.com. If you have any question, can leave a comment below, send me an email to info@ericgibaud.com. And below I also put links of my gear on Amazon and also links to other parts on my YouTube channel. Please take care of yourself and see you soon. Bye.